All right, hello. Today we're going to create a postcard using Adobe InDesign. I've logged into my West Hills account. I'm going to click on the assignment, create a postcard. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to download the exercise files so that I can navigate through the assignment. There's going to be one small issue as you work your way through the assignment. It's going to be that some of the files, and I'll show you here in a second. Actually, let me just rename this really quick. Some of the files are not going to open in your version of InDesign, so we'll need to work around that. But aside from that, here we go. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to open up Adobe InDesign after we've downloaded this file. As a reminder, in addition to the video I'm creating right now, there are also assignment videos here in West Hills campus. I'm going to create a new document. Okay, and the first thing I want to do actually is I'm going to change my units of measurement from millimeters to inches. So that's going to make your life a little bit easier. So let me actually cancel really quick in case yours are not set. We're going to go to Edit, Preferences. We're going to go to Units and Increments. And where it says millimeters, we're just going to go ahead and change that to inches. All right, everything else can stay the same, but again, you can see I just changed my ruler units from millimeters to inches, and I'm going to select OK. And now I'm going to go back and I'm going to create a new document. I'm going to set my width to 6 inches. I'm going to set my height to 4 inches. I'm creating a postcard. I want it to be front and back, so I'm going to actually create 2 pages. So number of pages, I'm going to switch from 1 to 2. And it's not a book, so I don't want it to be facing pages. And then the last thing is I need to change my my bleed margins, right? This is going to allow like my images to extend beyond the page. And I'm just going to type in 0.125, and you can see they all switch to 0.125 because they're linked together. So I'm going to select OK, and here's my document, and I'm ready to get started. So the first thing I'm going to do is I want to place my background image. So to do that, I'm going to select File, Place. Actually, sorry, let's go ahead and go to my rectangle tool, and let's create a frame that extends from the top bleed margin, top left, to the bottom right. And then I'm just going to go ahead and say File, Place. And I'm going to select, let me go to the file I just downloaded. I'm going to select the image. I'm going to say Open. And it's going to drop it there. As you can see, it's not fitting into my frame. So I want to right click. I'm going to go to Fitting, Fill Frame Proportionally. And now you can see the image. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to set up some guides. These are going to help me as I lay out my document. You do want to make sure that you go to View, and if you can see where it says Show Rulers, you want to click to say Show Rulers. You can see mine says Hide Rulers right here. And then also here where it says Grids and Guides, right? You want to make sure if it's guide here, you want to click that. Mine guide, so mine are already showing. Once that's done, I'm going to go up to my margin. We've done this before in Photoshop. I'm going to drag down. I'm going to bring it right here to the center of my document. And I'm going to snap my horizontal guide right there. And I'm going to create a vertical guide going in the other direction. Right? I know that you can see my ruler. I know that I set my document up to be 4 inches tall. So I can set it to 2 inches as my middle point, and 3 inches is here. And I'm going to do the same thing on my back page. So again, I'm just going to set my horizontal. Oops. Let's start here. I'm going to set my vertical guide first to 3 inches, and then my horizontal guide to 2 inches. And I'm ready to get started. The next thing I need to do is I need to add a logo up here at the top. So this is where we're going to have to be a little bit creative. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Google, and I'm going to look for like an orange flag or some sort of banner. What I want here is I'm going to go to my tools, and I'm going to select the type of, I'm looking for like a clip art. And I'm actually going to change this to say orange banner. And for color, I'm going to click transparent. And let's see if I can find something that looks good. One more thing I'm going to do is just usage right, labeled for reuse. And I'm not finding exactly what I want here. Well, for right now, I'm just going to settle with this, I guess. It's not exactly what I was thinking, but I'm going to say save image as. I'm just going to save it into the folder. Hit save. And I'll go back to my document. I'm going to go to File, Place. And what I want to do is I want to place it up here in the top of my screen. So I'm going to make it a little bit smaller. Right? I'm going to make sure it's centered. I can do that by making sure it snaps to my guide. And then again, right click, fitting, fill frame proportionally. And we can leave it like that. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to add some text. This text is going to be design talks. So I'm going to click on my text tool. I'm going to create a text box for this. Okay, I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to type in design talks. I'm going to select a font up here at the top. In this case, I'm going to just select impact. So let me get there, impact. And I'm going to set it to size 36. I'm going to set it to bold. If it's an option. I'm going to set it to all caps, so you can see here's a tool that will just change it all to all caps. I'm going to center it using my align center tool. And then I'm going to underline it using an underline tool. So watch this. I'm going to scroll over all the way to the right. You see this drop down menu. I'm going to click on underline options. I'm going to turn underline on. I'm going to give my underline a weight of 4 points and an offset of 9 points. I'm going to select OK. I can click away from it. And then this is a good opportunity. I can just kind of skinny up my my text box right there so it's a little bit cleaner. I'm going to add another text box now down below, like right here. And in this text box, I'm going to add some information about the event. So I'm going to call it every Tuesday, and I'm going to say 6 to 8 p.m. I'm going to highlight that and choose a font. In this case, I'm going to select Book Antiqua. I'm going to make it bold, italic. I'm going to set my font to 10 points. And I'm going to center my text. And the last thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to take my text box. I'm going to make sure that it's touching the very top of my guide and the right side, this right or middle line. And I'm going to create a second box. And the way that I'm going to do that so that it's exactly the same is I'm going to hold Alt and I'm going to drag it. If I hold Alt and Shift at the same time, it'll keep it on the exact same height or line. And in this one, I'm just going to highlight this text and I'm just going to change it to say Art Cafe, San Francisco. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to click on my foreground swatch. So actually here, let's click away for a second. Okay, and now I'm going to double click on my foreground swatch and I'm going to set a new swatch, right? My swatch is going to be in orange, so I'm going to set it to 0, 50, 100, 0. And when I click Add CMYK swatch, it's going to add that orange for me. Okay, so I'm going to say add that, and then I'm going to say okay. I'm going to click on this I'm going to, 1 second. All right, sorry about that. So I'm going to go back in. I'm going to highlight my text, right? I'm going to click on my fill color up here for my text. We're going to do this one more time. Sorry about that. 0, 50, 100, 0. I'm going to say add CMYK swatch and then hit OK. And you can see that it went ahead and it changed my text color for me. I'm now going to change the color of my text down below. I'm going to change it from, let's just go here. I'm going to change it to white. I'm going to do the same thing here. For my text color, I just want to change it all the way to white. And there we go. Now I'm ready to move on to the back of my document. The only thing I'm thinking is I just want to move this up a little bit, give a little bit more space between my header and the rest of the text. So now we're moving on to the back. Let's actually do one more thing here on the front. Sorry about that. Let's add a rectangle tool. And let's make sure that our fill color is set to that same swatch that we just created. And then let's have our, let's change this to none. So we have no outline around it. Let's make a small rectangle, something like that. And then I'm going to rotate it to go 45 degrees. So to do that, I'm going to hold down Shift on my keyboard. I'm going to rotate it to 45 degrees, and I'm going to move this so it's just touching that middle section. That looks good to me. So now let's go to the back of our document. We're going to grab our line tool. And we want to change our stroke color to black so that you just bring your all the way down here, right? The other thing you can do is just click here and we're going to change it to black. And I'm going to come down into this lower right hand box and I'm going to draw 4 lines. So this is a postcard, right? So we're creating 4 lines. This is an address line. Make sure that your weight is set to 1 point. Okay. And then to create that straight line like I just, oops, sorry about that. To create that straight line like I just did, I just held down Shift on my keyboard and that keeps it perfectly straight. Right, so there's one line. I'm going to grab my selection tool. I'm going to place it right where I want it. If I want it a little bit wider, I can do that, and I can always go back and fix it. And if I hold down Alt and Shift on my keyboard, that's going to create a second line that's going to be directly down from it. And I can do the same thing again. And it kind of snaps every time when it's so that it's about even spacing. It does look like. Let me grab these two. All right, there we go. And then if I want to make any adjustments to all of them, I can just highlight them, right? I could space them out a little bit more. That might look a little bit better. While I have my line tool, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to create a line that extends just about the entire way from margin to margin, right? I also make sure, just like before, hold down Shift. That'll keep your line perfectly straight. Now we're going to add a text box. We're going to do that over here. We'll go from this corner down to here, right? And we're just going to go to File, Place. And I'm going to find my text. I'm going to say Open. Right, you've probably seen this before. I'm going to change my font to bold. I'm going to change my font size to 10. I'm going to train, this is right here. I'm going to change my tracking to 5. It's going to give a little bit of spacing between each of my letters. You can see how it filled out a little bit there. I'm going to grab my selection tool and I'm going to create a fill color. Remember I click this little arrow to the right of my fill color, and if I scroll down you should see that swatch that we created, this orange, and I'm going to fill it with the same orange that we did before. I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to drag this up so that it extends beyond. Oh, actually, no, let's not do that. Let's keep that there. I'm going to right click on my box. I'm going to click on text frame options. And this might be linked here, so you want to make sure it's unlinked. And I'm going to set different values for my inset spacing. So I'm going to set to 0.625 inches for the top. And then for the rest of them, I'm going to do 1/4 inch, so 0.25 for each of the other ones. And there we go. So now it's giving me an option to move my text down and you can see I've pretty much I'm able to drag the top all the way. Actually, let's just go ahead and drag it all the way up here to the bleed margin. Okay, and that looks nice. I'm gonna take the lecture name right here, and I'm gonna change the text color from black, right, to white. So you can see here's my stroke color. And just like I did before, I'm just gonna grab that same white by dragging all the way up and then up to the top right corner. And the last thing I'm pretty close to the end here. The last couple things I need to do are place some icons, and then I'm going to put a triangle here. So let's start with the triangle, since then we're going to need to search for some images. Okay, and if I just click on my document one time, so again, I'm grabbing this polygon tool, right, and I'm just going to click one time. And I want to set my number of sides to 3 because I'm going to create a triangle. I'm going to select OK. And I'm going to just create a small triangle. Okay, one mistake I made is I left my stroke on. So I'm going to remove my stroke by clicking on this arrow and clicking none, and it'll disappear. And then I'm going to rotate it 180 degrees. So to do that, I'm going to hold down Shift, and it'll really quickly, that's going to give me 90 degrees. And there's 180. And I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to kind of attach this. In the center. So that it looks good. Remember that when you go to view, and then if you go to screen mode preview, all of those lines will go away. So it's going to look a little bit more professional. But right now, I like just staying in here so I can see all of my snap and guidelines. So we need a social media icon to go here in the bottom right hand corner, or in the bottom left of our screen. I'm going to go back to Google Images. And I'm going to search for like Facebook, Twitter, Vimeo, and I'm going to just any type, and we want it to be transparent, and you can search around for one. Let me see. Here we go. So you can pick like anything's fine that you think would look good on your document. I actually grabbed one previously. I'm going to grab it really quick. I'm going to go to File, Place, and I'm just going to go to a different folder. I'm going to grab this. I guess I looked up Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I'm just going to draw a little box for it to fit in right down here. And I'll center it on the page. Right here near the bottom. And then I need a stamp up here. So I'm going to File, Place, and you can see I chose this stamp right here. I just Googled stamp. Say Open. Oops, sorry. File. Let me try it one more time. Place. I'm going to put that right up here in the top corner. And hello. That shouldn't have happened. Let me click away really quick. And then let me place that image one more time. There we go. And I think I'm pretty happy with how this looks. So the next step, I might actually take this, take both of these really quick. Just moving down this tiniest bit. Bring this down so it's right in the middle. I'm going to go ahead and export my file to submit it. So remember that we want to save our image. We want to save it into our folder. So here's my Chris Rubin Q2 InDesign. And then I can name it Rubin _ Chris _ postcard. I'm going to hit save. And then I'm going to go to File. And this is how I'm going to submit it. File Export. Make sure it's set to Adobe PDF Print. And with the correct name, Rubin _ Chris _ postcard, hit save. Make sure it's set to high quality print. I'm going to select export. And then we can just double check in our folder. And there it is. So you can see I've got my first and second page of my document. This is how it's going to look to my audience. You know, I could go back and make a couple of adjustments, like I might move these lines up. But again, this is a reason it's always good to preview your document before you've printed it. And hopefully you're happy with the final product. All right. With that said, now's a great opportunity. You can go right to your assignment and you'll be able to submit it and you'll be done with this assignment. Thank you very much.